Welcome to the Top Order podcast. It is game day 37 as we record here in Top Order Towers and remotely across the beautiful rolling hills of the English countryside. We're going to talk about whether Chennai have got themselves back in the tournament with a Dhoni finishing act, or are Gujarat in the box seats with the form in the tournament so far. All coming up on the Top Order podcast. Stay tuned. Well, boys, bit of a topsy-turvy week in the IPL. We've seen some high scores and low scores and probably some middling scores as well. For those of you new to the podcast, just a quick explainer on the format. We're going to talk about which IPL stock we will buy, sell and hold this week. And I think, as has been customary, we'll go to the rack and opinion first. That's the beautifully dressed trio of Messrs. Baldwin, Lipshaw and Reddy, resplendent in their retro 1992 themed Cricket World Cup shirts with New Zealand colours. But yeah, boys, where are you going first with your stock tips this week?
Anyone got anything burning? I would love to start with Suryavanshi. Shouldn't we start with him? 14 years old and makes his IPL debut. I mean, I just think it's kind of blown my mind. I mean, when he got picked in the auction, obviously he was 13 at that point. He's only just turned 14. You're kind of thinking, oh yeah, like that's a cool, fun story. But I mean, Baldy, credit to you. You brought him up in the under-19s tournament, the Test match against Australia. You talked about him, a few months ago. But even still, it felt like this is a cool story. This is a novelty. He's not, he's going to be there for the experience. Then he plays this game because Sanju Samson's out. Plays the game, first ball. He's like got the confidence to just take a step back, plant one over extra cover for 6. I mean, I don't know. I just have so many different thoughts about this. But the first one is, this is just amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you think back to when you were 14 and, you're struggling to face the other 14-year-old bowling to you in the net, and then this guy's over there playing at the top of the top of world cricket, really, in this IPL tournament, and he didn't look out of place. No. That was the big thing that I took away from it is, I thought maybe he'd play and miss it a couple, tentatively prodded a couple, but no, right from ball one, he really throws everything into it. I worry about his back later on in life because of how much torque is going through there. But he looked very, very good. What do you think, Baldy?
It's an incredible story, isn't it? And I was trying to think today after you were telling me about the feats of this young man, if I'd ever hit a 6-over cover in my career, and I've never been close. But this guy, as a 14-year-old, is just doing things that are unheard of. And it just goes to show the factory of young, hard-hitting Indian cricketers that are being produced because of the IPL now in its 18th year. I mean, we were 4 or 5 IPLs in before this kid was even born. Yeah. And so he is a product of the IPL era, and we're just seeing more and more young Indian batters in particular, but batters all over the world, able to come in and play immediately all around the ground, even from an early age. So we are now well and truly in the product of a T20 era, and batters are being brought up with T20 cricket in mind first and foremost.
And the amazing thing as well, I thought, was that he's 2 years younger than the youngest debutant in the IPL. I mean, there's been international debutants at 15, all those sort of ages as well. But the fact that he's 2 years younger, it shows you kind of how significant this is. And I don't know, Jamie, I mean, we talked last week quite a bit, right, about the mindset of how these young batters or any batters really, top order batters, are able to just kind of walk out there, step back, first ball, run down the wicket, not worried about getting out. How does that translate to a 14-year-old? And then I guess do we have to be concerned about what if he has a couple of failures, what happens to him in the system, all of this kind of stuff? Or is, I don't know, talk me through how that works.
Yeah, fascinating, isn't it? And I was thinking back last night, I was like, what was I doing at 14? I was playing Sonic the Hedgehog at 14. So I wasn't getting anywhere near an IPL. So I was thinking, it is incredible, but it's not only incredible playing at that level, but also the power at 14. Like, like the ability physically to be able to hit some of these shots and these bowlers, and the hand-eye coordination is just, you just think of maybe the amount of preparation and practice that has gone on prior to this period. I'd love to know at what age he actually picked up a bat, like um I think there's often the old adage, isn't there, that when we're really young, we don't really care. Like, we're a bit kind of foolhardy in that sense, and I think there is an element of like you don't get constrained with probably fear and concern too much. At that age, you are probably quite instinctive. You are, for all intents of a better word, it's fun. Like there's probably a real emphasis on fun. What I find fascinating though, he's actually a professional at 14, so he's not in that amateur, not paid role. He's actually getting paid for it, but still having fun. And I think all the evidence would say as soon as we get paid for something, sometimes the fun can sort of go out of it a little bit because now it becomes super serious. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the next couple of matches are like. But to do even that 30 odd in your first game at 14 is pretty incredible. Probably says a lot about the approach that he's taken. But we spoke last week about more broadly the culture and the environment that he's been brought in. He's clearly been told, look, just go and express yourself. There's no real constraints that have been put on him. So I think hats off to the environment, but also hats off to whoever has worked with this individual and his approach, because it's pretty unique, isn't it? Yeah.
It is really unique because if you think about professional sports and team sports, there are very, very few circumstances ever where a 14-year-old would come in and play first-class professional sport in any kind of environment. It wouldn't happen in rugby. It wouldn't happen in football. It wouldn't happen in any of the American sporting codes. And if you think about it, really, the only time that 14-year-olds really come to the fore are in sports like gymnastics and diving, when there is a physical advantage to being in that kind of,
To be smaller.
To be smaller and lighter. But this kid is playing a men's game at men's level and is dominating world-class opponents at 14 years of age. I can't remember it ever actually being done before in any other sport other than cricket. So it is really something that's remarkable that we have been witness to this week.
I think that's probably where the sport of cricket is unique in that sense, because it does provide you the opportunity. Like you probably couldn't put a 14-year-old on a rugby pitch, because of the physicality. But cricket actually, because of the non-contact nature of it, I guess it does mean that you can have these instances of people coming through, because technically they are clearly very, very able. The physicality surprises me though. Like I was thinking at 14, like, developmentally, like has he been hitting the weights? What's been happening? Has he been eating a lot of protein for the last 10 years? I don't know. Like what's going on there? He's got to have some good genes, definitely.
Do we want to shift to? We've gone a really real positive there on Rajasthan. Do we want to shift to their week in general, because it hasn't been a good one, and I think if we're looking at, I think Baldy and Jamie, whoever it was last week, called it moving week for some of these teams. Rajasthan had a real opportunity to make it a big moving week for them. They were in two positions of dominance, I suppose. Jaiswal was looking great in both innings, got himself in situations where, they were games that they were going to win, and then suddenly, for different reasons, they collapse, they lose those games. Great games to watch. I mean, one of the things that I was buying was these final over finishes, these close finishes that we've had all week, which has been fantastic. But, if you're selling something, you're selling. I think you're selling Rajasthan's chances now, because those two losses, they've got to be crushing because of the way that they've gone down, and that, where that puts them now on the table, and the Sanju Samson injury. It's sort of all building up for them, isn't it?
Yeah, I've kind of got elements of that in my buy and my sell actually. So I'm selling Rajasthan's auction strategy, getting rid of Jos Buttler and really buying Jos Buttler this week as well. If we look at the way he started the tournament as an Englishman, I'm particularly hoping that he can bring that form back to an England shirt come the English summer. I think he's got at least 4, if not 5 scores out of his 7 or 8 knocks so far. So I think Rajasthan might be kicking themselves that they've made a couple of decisions from a tactical perspective. But it does look as if they're obviously on a downward spiral form wise. If you look at their rag status, it looks pretty poor with lots and lots of red in that loss column at the moment. I'd be agreeing with you there, Stu.
Yeah, I think I bought them 2 weeks ago when I was on the show, and I might be selling them at a loss this week. But they are actually, I maintain they are a good side. They have great players. They put themselves in position to win both those games.
Oh, they were in great positions.
Jaiswal, whose stocks are going through the roof, is betting out of his skin. But they just can't put them away. They're relying on playing that perfect game, and it's just not working for them at this stage. They should have won both of these games this week.
Yeah, I mean that you look at the last game, LSG, wasn't it? I think, and the situation where they've got into, the Sandeep Sharma over from their end costs them 20 or whatever it was, and then at the other end they can't go on and get those scores. I mean, they really have had. I think it was 25 off 18 balls when Avish Khan came into bowl to Jaiswal. He runs in, bowls, like fair play to him. Brilliant Yorker, cleans up Jaiswal, gets Parag, and later on in the over, and suddenly it's sort of turns that game completely. But you just think we should be cruising these games, and you add 4 points to that total. Suddenly they're on 8, and they're right back in this competition, and you're going, okay, like you said, Jaiswal's back in form. Actually, we got a team on our hands here, and I don't know. I think it's really hard to come back from what's just happened.
Can I move us on to one which I think might be a bit controversial, but I'd like to know your opinion. I'm buying Mumbai Indians this week.
I'm glad you're talking about Mumbai.
I'm buying Mumbai Indians. I like the look of them. Rohit Sharma, even though he hasn't put like a big score up, I feel like it's just around the corner.
He looked much better, didn't he?
He looks much better this week. He's so still, and he's playing through the line. Bumrah, after his first 2 outings, which weren't great, and I was about to come here and roast you, Stu, about Bumrah being, the second coming. But no, he bowled a lot better than his third match. And what impressed me actually was something that we talked about before. Their fielding has actually been really on point. Obviously, the first game in the week they won. They got those 3 runouts at the end. But they've actually taken all their catches apart from one, which was Will Jacks early on in that second game. Apart from that, they've actually taken all their catches, they've taken their runouts, and they've won games based on that. And we talked about that being a big differentiator. There've been some poor fielding performances by teams. But, I'm buying Mumbai Indians this week.
Can I jump in there? Because Mumbai's upcoming run, they face CSK have got them next.
Overnight.
They're 10th. Sunrisers have got them next as well. Sunrisers are 9th. And then Rajasthan have got them like 3 games from now. And they're in 8th at the moment. And so all 3 of those teams are desperate for wins. But if their losing streak continues, Mumbai could actually go on a bit of a run. And I think we'll know within those couple of games from CSK, Sunrisers, etc., against Mumbai, who's going to be out of the tournament in the next couple of days. Because as far as I'm concerned, any side that drops to 6 losses this early in the tournament is going to be pushing the proverbial uphill to get to 8 wins and get to the finals. So I'm this is now or never for Mumbai, and if they're going to make a run, I think it needs to be now.
There's going to be someone from those bottom 3 or 4 teams, right? There's KKR, there's Mumbai, there's Sunrisers, there's Rajasthan, CSK. CSK won their game, but I don't know. People might want to discuss them, but I think that although they won, all of the things that we talked about last week were so visible, and it wasn't a performance for me that looked like they've turned things around in the way that they've gone about and won this game. So. But I do think one of those teams is going to emerge. It always happens, right? It's such a long tournament that we've seen teams right now, Delhi, Gujarat, these teams get in form, they stay in form for 7 or 8 games. That could easily happen for a couple of these teams, and then suddenly, we're talking about them flying home in the way that RCB did last year. So Mumbai's probably in the best position, as you say, to go on and do that right now.
Yeah, and I think the counter to that, we've talked about Mumbai and we've talked about CSK a hell of a lot, haven't we, in terms of what are they going to do, particularly with some of the marquee players. And yeah, I'm glad that we've picked up on that, because they could go big in the next 3 or 4 games. Conversely, I think I said to you, Stu, in the chat in the week, CSK, that win I think has really papered over the cracks for them this week against LSG. And yeah, look, I know it's a nice story for the tournament, but the narrative of Dhoni as man of the match, when you actually watched his innings, I think he got 20, 26, 28, something like that. 2 of them were edges through the slips, which weren't deliberate, and I don't care what anybody says. One of them was a sort of inside edged 6 over square leg, one-handed. Now, great, I'd love to be able to an inside edge of one-handed shot over any boundary, and was dropped in that innings as well. So it got them back in the probably got them back in the tournament to an extent with 2 points for the win. But yeah, I just can't see them mounting enough sort of momentum and serious challenge on this tournament. So yeah, I think the message there is go out and buy some CSK stocks. They'll probably have a storming week, but they seem as if they're gone for me. And last year we were waiting until 9-10 games before we started to really say we could make predictions. I am happy to call the state of CSK for the Democrats. They're gone, absolutely gone.
Let me provide the alternate point of view. CSK's next 2 games are in Mumbai, who are 7th, so they're not top of the table side, and Sunrisers. So one of those 2 teams is going to drop to 6 losses in the next couple of games, almost certainly. So one of those 2 teams are going to be out. So it's going to be Sunrisers or CSK that I think are going to have an opportunity to go on a run. If this Dhoni game, is the real CSK, we need to see it now in these next 2 games. If it's not the real CSK, they're going to lose at least 1 or 2 of those, be out the tournament. Because by the time they play the Kings, their whole IPL could effectively, mathematically be over by that point.
And as much as I do love running the numbers and trying to figure out the predictions and where teams can finish, I think the overall point from this week and a lot of the things you're talking about is that it's been a really fun week. Like lots of got these games. I think a couple of weeks ago, someone said, had the impact players sort of made these games less fun because teams go so hard at the start that people are losing. You either get a massive score and it's really hard to chase down, or you lose a bunch of wickets at the start and you can't post a total that's good enough. We've seen some great scores this week, and I don't know. I mean, Baldy, do you want to kind of elaborate on some of the stuff we were talking about off air? Because I think a lot of the games, I think there's been a lot of games that have fallen kind of in that sweet spot of is this a good score kind of range, and then I think there's also been quite some varying conditions as well that have helped and that have created some really low scores and the rain obviously was there and that threw up its own challenges. But I think we've seen a real variety around the performances this week, and it's meant for some really close games. And obviously that's pretty exciting for a lot of us watching as largely neutrals.
I've got a bit of a hangover this week from the scores that were racked up last week. There were 5 200-plus scores for sides batting first last week and a 180 as well. This week, there's only been 2 200 scores, nothing above 205. And lots of games...
This is first inning scores.
This is teams batting first, right? So this week, we've had a 170, 205, 166, 188, 166, 203, and 180. So they're all scores right in the sweet spot of the modern T20 that provide for what I think are much more entertaining close encounters. And we've seen lots of games this week either go into the last couple of balls or, in the case of the 188 game, go into a super over. And brings me neatly to my point of buying Mitchell Starc this week because he really delivered in that super over and my Aussie bowling stocks are looking quite great. But from last week, I was really down on the excitement of the IPL as close contest cricket because there were so many high scores. There's lots of variability. But now the scores are just starting to come back together a little bit. And I think it's making for much closer, much more exciting games of cricket for a spectator.
I think that they've definitely this week understood better what a good scorers when they're batting first. A lot of them have got to a sort of a pass score and they're like, we can defend this. Hasn't happened on all occasions, but and to be honest, the game I found the most exciting was that 95 versus 98 RCB versus the Punjab Kings. There it was a very exciting game, and I'm not usually one for the bowling dominating a game, but I actually found it really exciting. That one. Keeping them close is definitely one of the things that I'm buying this week is close games.
100%.
Yeah, but
Or even that Punjab game, that Punjab versus who was it? KKR game where Dre Russ was stuck at the other end trying to save KKR because
Almost did it too.
Yeah, and Punjab ends up defending the lowest, well, what is it? Yeah, the lowest score in the IPL. That's fantastic. I think that we need more of. We don't need that every game. I think we talked about this in the T20 World Cup, right? That a couple of those games are brilliant. When you get every game that's like that, suddenly you go, okay, well, we don't want that. But the variety and that all of these things have thrown up has been great.
Yeah, and that for me, that variety comes from the fact that the game of cricket provides that, and I just hope that when the tournament strategists, the marketing guys are getting in the room, that they're not having an influence on, wouldn't it be great if we had 2 impact players so that we can have even more sixes and and focusing on, the boundaries or, scoring 300 being what the fans want to see. I think fans want to see close games, particularly when they're watching a neutrals game, right? Yes, occasionally you want your team to go out and win 5-0. But that sort of exhilaration sometimes comes from, nicking a winner in the last minute, doesn't it? And I think that's the same, the same in cricket. And yeah, I forget whether, I think it was Raj that just said that kind of sweet spot of those scores in that sort of 170, 180. That's where it gets exciting. And you get that balance of, yes, some boundaries, but also, who wants to see a seamer going for 75 off their 4 overs because it's just absolutely flat as a pancake? That must be soul destroying. So yeah, absolutely. With you on this week being a better watching week, Michael.
Far better watching week. I just wanted to pick up on one more Aussie before everyone shuts me down on the Aussie talk.
No.
Okay.
What was that, Jamie? You've got a point you want.
Well, go on. Let's have some Aussie big up. Go on.
If we are going to talk about the Aussies, you just bought Starc stock, but Rahul Tawatia took a liking to him in that second game that they played this week.
That's true. I mean, you can't. I mean, the thing is with T20s at the moment is you can't win them all, right?
Yeah.
Josh Hazlewood's probably the most consistent of the pace bowlers throughout the tournament so far, and my only qualm with the Josh Hazlewood performance so far in this IPL is I think RCB have been almost criminal in not using him at the top in the last 2 games that they've played, particularly defending 95. Like if you've only got 95 on the board, you're trying to defend that even in 14 overs. That really condenses the amount of balls that can make a difference between winning and losing. And they chose not to play Josh Hazlewood right up at the top of the order. He came in when, the batters were underway. It still took 3 for 14 off his 3 overs, changed the game. But when you've only got 90 to defend, you've got to play your trump card at the start of the innings. And I just think RCB missed a trick there in 2 games, not having Josh Hazlewood bowl at the top of the order, trying to get something else happening for them. But it really didn't work for them.
I'll jump on the bandwagon with you on Mitchell Starc. I think he started off really well. We know he took wickets at the start of the tournament. He's been a little bit off, but I thought that death spell that he bowled to get to that super over was actually really good. He took a wicket in the over before that and the second last over. So he did a great job, I thought.
Absolutely. His Yorker execution has been spot on. He's been really hard to get away of late. And I think they're the skills that, you're going to need at the back end of these games. Because if you're off even by a tiny little bit, bats, ground size, player skills, even a mishit goes the distance at the moment. So, the bowlers are going to have to be really on it. And while I've got the microphone and I'm talking about Australians, I need to provide an unbiased, both sides of the coin view. And I think it's the right thing to do for Jake Fraser-McGurk to not be playing at the moment because he's not in great form. I think it would hurt his confidence more to have a continued run of low scores that costs his team opportunities to win games. I think they've got to dump him, and they have for their last game. So while it pains me deeply to see Jake Fraser-McGurk not playing, I think for the team, benefit, it's the right thing to do at the moment because he's having a torrid time of it.
Really, really quickly, can I just sell something? And I want to sell. I want to sell. You mentioned that super over game. I want to sell the way that the scorecard operates on most websites when it comes to a super over. You see the score, and it looks like a tie, and you literally need a decoder ring to go and find out where to view the result of the super over. They need to fire that in there as a separate second innings and put a big red, signpost to it. So there you go. There's my little rant. I want to see that super over put properly as a scorecard. So yeah, listen up, Quick Info.
Can I buy two things? And these are probably one of them is quite selfish. So I'm buying tied games with super overs because that really helps me in my performance under pressure lecture that I do every year. So the more examples I can get in there, the more of that, the better. So I'm buying those. And I'm also buying the fact that the mighty GT, not getting too carried away with this, I've only got one game this week, so I'm buying rest and recovery for the mighty GTs this week, so that rest and recovery is enabling them to push on and have a sterling mid sort of tournament towards the end of tournament. So those are two from me that I'm buying.
What do you think they should do in their rest and recovery week, Jay?
Don't care, not play. Maybe play a bit of golf. Yeah, don't mind. But yeah, just get do some, I don't know, team togetherness stuff, or just go away and relax. I'm not too fussed. Just recover to come back and go again. So
thanks, Jamie. Deep insights there, mate. Well done.
Yeah,
do you English boys want a bit more time on Jos Buttler? Because I know you mentioned him before, Binksy, but he was fantastic in that game against DC. The way he went about, he kind of took down every important bowler in that game at all of the important moments. He was just fantastic. So, and as you mentioned before, he's getting score after score after score. There's Prasad Krishna, who's doing fantastic. I mean, you've got the microphone now, Jamie. Why don't you actually talk us through some of these guys that are doing the job for GT? Because it's starting to get to the point where there's so many different people along this list that they're starting to look like a complete team, really.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke last week that I think we said that there are three batters in the top 5 run scorers from GT, so they're spreading it around. They're not kind of just chucking all their eggs into one basket, and I think that's just carrying on. And now what we're getting is, because it's not so dependent on one player, you're now getting a stage where players are building even more confidence because they can play a bit freer because they'll know that there's them and 3 others that are in the runs as well. So I think we're probably now starting to see Buttler really hit, those top gears. Siddharthan, still going about his business. Gill's still going about their business, but. So again, I think the rest, the one game this week probably comes at a good time for them, just to take stock and then go again. But Butler's been very impressive. A lot of people had written him off, hadn't they? And Rajasthan Royals must be thinking, what on earth have we done from a sort of recruitment perspective? But yeah, he's just showing that if you maybe just take the focus off him a little bit, it's not all about. He's not the sort of the key player. If you build players around him, then you just allow him to be natural and play his game without putting too much emphasis on him, I think. So yeah, definitely buying Buttler for sure.
What I like about Buttler, sorry Jamie, I jumped over you there. What I like about Buttler is, we've seen these batsmen in the IPL and they're all swashbuckling, and he is playing so within himself. He's placing the ball where he needs to put it. He just, when they talk about other sports where they see the game going slowly, it feels like that. He sees the ball coming very slowly towards him at the moment, and it's the size of a beach ball, and he's putting it exactly where he wants to. He looks very, very good.
Some of those shots through cover, even, was it Vipraj came on and he just, in the power play, and he's like, okay, this guy's been good in the IPL. I'm going to take him down now. I'm going to hit a couple of sixes off him. And then, I think it was the 15th over or whatever, that chase when Starc comes on. 4. Starc's trying to bowl those Yorkers, slightly misses.
Yeah.
And Butler's able to find different places to hit them.
And that's what he's so good at. I think, we all go and have throwdowns, and you ask your mate to throw you a bunch of half volleys. These guys, the way Buttler practices and how fast his hands are and how hard he works on being able to really bat deep in the crease and Stu, as you say, find those angles. And the other thing I just think that's so impressive is he was a marquee player for Rajasthan, wasn't it? He was on all the posters. He probably was on the posters for this season. The marketing department were probably really pissed off. They'd probably done all that work and then they sack him off in the auction. But I think mentally, what must that do to you? It's the equivalent, Jamie. We always like to bring a Man United reference on the podcast now, but it's the equivalent of what happens when Dennis Irwin leaves and goes somewhere else, and he's gone from being a stalwart and a marquee player for so long, and then he's going and playing for another club. Mentally, that must really affect you to go, well, I was brilliant last year, and now I'm surplus to requirements, even though I'm still a world-class player. So from a mental perspective, I don't know what he's done, but GT must be very, very pleased with that. Yeah, with that pickup.
Yeah, I think but probably what you sort of saw in maybe some of his early matches, even though he's been pretty consistent, was maybe that, am I good enough anymore? And, I've been sort of kicked out. And then I think probably what has happened is that, we've spoken about GT's approach and like their sense of togetherness that seems to be coming through, the sense of fun. I mean, and I think he's just finding his feet, and I think he looks like he's really enjoying his cricket again. In his 97, there was looked like he was having fun. Like his body language looked like, the Buttler of old. I would say that, there isn't that he's walking around with a rucksack full of rocks of expectation. It's like, actually, this is fun. I can be instinctive now, see ball, hit ball, and I can, get my fast hands working, rather than being maybe constrained by being the poster boy and being the England captain and all of this stuff. It's like, actually, I've now rebooted. I've Control Alt and deleted myself, and I'm finding my form again. And I think it's really refreshing. And I think it does show that just because we have these setbacks where maybe we get moved on through no fault of our own, it doesn't mean that we're a failure completely. It doesn't mean we've failed at all. Someone's had a judgment on us, but it means that we do have the opportunity to sort of reboot and go again.
His athleticism with the gloves is still there.
Great
too.
catch.
The catch, particularly the one where he's going towards the leg side, player ramps the ball. He's got to go a long way very, very quickly in the air to get that ball into his right pocket, and he did that tremendously. So everything is coming together for Jos Buttler, and his athleticism is clearly still there. He's found the fun, and when he's enjoying himself, there are very few cricketers in the world that are as fun to watch as he is, because of the level of control, Raj, as you say, that he has over his performance. Can I just give some role player love to some of the Gujarat guys before we move on?
Sure, talking about cricket.
Still talking about cricket. Sai Kishore has been underrated, really good for GT this year. I mean, he's not in even in the 4 or 5 most notable names in their bowling attack behind Siraj and Ashad and Krishna, Rashid, Ishant Sharma. He's the sort of 6th option. No one really talks about him. But
he only bowled the last over in that last game.
And he's only bowled 1 over in this last game, which I think was probably a little bit uncalled for. But, he's picked up wickets in most games that he's played. He's got 2 for 20, 2 for 30, and he's really contributing, to the success of the team, even in that role player kind of mode. So he's not going to get a lot of plaudits, and a lot of impact player, man of the match awards and big contracts and all the rest of it. But he's the kind of glue guy that's making them a winning team at the moment.
Can I jump on the back of that, actually, around spinners? So I'm happy with the stocks I've bought around, Jofra Archer and Mohammad Suraj. I think they're going really well. But spinners like Chakravarti, and he bowled one to Glenn Maxwell this week. Glenn Maxwell, the no-show, who I'm selling, by the way. I'm selling Glenn Maxwell, by the way.
No-show.
So last year in the IPL, he was 52 runs at an average of 5. Yeah. And this season, he's 41 runs at 8. Glenn Maxwell, he is feasting on his international reputation. We know he can do the job, but if you're looking at his IPL numbers over the last 2 years, they're pretty shocking. Yeah. Anyway, I'll move on back to the spinners. Chakravarti's looked really, really good.
You can talk us through that delivery if you want.
It was incredible. Maxwell's pushed forward to one just outside off to sort of play with the spin, and he's just completely missed it. It's gone between bat and pad.
He still doesn't know what that ball was. and it's days later.
Through
it
the
was
gate.
so good.
And then Chahal had a good game finally.
Two.
Oh, well, I know the fourth might have missed the other
Two good
one.
games. He's been brilliant this week.
He struggled early on, and he's definitely sort of coming back. He's bowling well, and Noor Ahmed, Kuldeep, they're all there. They're bowling well. I think what we've seen with the overall scores coming down, I think it's due to a little bit of variability in the pitches. Mm-hmm. Logic tells you it's only going to get more variable and more leaning in towards the spinners as this IPL goes on. So I think buying some stock in spin options might be worth it this week.
Look at this, Raj. Look, number one, Yuzvendra Chahal, wrist spinners. Wrist spinners. I mean, look, I've got plenty to say on Chahal, but Baldy, I mean, it must kind of bring you a lot of joy, I suppose, just to see the number of wrist spinners that we've got at the moment. We were debating before whether you class Varun as a wrist spinner. I think I do. I class him as a wrist spinner because of the different deliveries that he bowls, the wrong and all that kind of stuff. Nareen, I guess I wouldn't. But, when you look at that, Raj just named them all. You've got Chahal, you've got Kuldeep, you've got Varun, you've got Noor, you've got Vipraj, you've got Hasaranga's had his moments.
That new young fella as well, who signs everything.
Yes, yeah.
He's Digvish.
Yep, Rati. So there's Suya Sharma. There's loads of wrist spinners out there, and Rashid. We haven't even named Rashid Khan, who at various points has been the number one T20 bowler around. So there's huge stocks of them at the moment, and they're all really performing at the moment.
They'll all come to the fore this week, and I think there is definitely a correlation between the emergence of wrist spinners as a force in this IPL over the last week and a half and the scores coming down. They are definitely correlated events, and it makes me glad to see wrist spinners getting a go. I mean, 18 years ago, we were talking about the death of wrist spin in the IPL as a thing because everyone was just going to get pumped. But actually, the variations, the changes of pace, bowling different areas of the wicket, all of those things are skills that have developed over the years, and you see the different nationalities of the wrist spinners as well is something that's increasingly becoming an important thing for world cricket as well. So it's not just Indian or Pakistani wrist spinners, but you're getting them coming from all sorts of places, and that is only helping build the depth of Test cricket. And I think it's going to be a good thing going forward to get more of them playing longer forms of the game.
Baldy, that's the irony though, Baldy, for me, is that we're not seeing that translate. We're not seeing it translate into red ball cricket. Name a team that plays a leggy every single time, and that's not for want of nations trying and throwing guys into the deep end, but that they get 2 or 3 goes and then they're gone burger. But hopefully.
So my theory on that is leg spinners or wrist spinners have traded off the ripping turner for more control.
Yes.
And it's gotten better for them at 2020 level because of that. But looking at the test game where you need that ripping leg spinner, but you might bowl the odd ball, cut ball, short cut ball, that's sort of gone out of the game. But wrist spinners definitely on my list this week.
I think, though, what I've liked about this week in particular, and why I had Chahal down there, is because he was able to pick up most of his wickets this week by not firing it in. I think if we think of the leg spinners that have been really successful in T20 cricket over the last 5 years, it's probably been
fast.
Adam Zampa, Rashid Khan. They're kind of the two that spring to mind first for me. But Yuzvendra Chahal, his skill is being able to bowl, toss it up, bowl, beat people in the air. Well, Rashid is more like Chahal, I would say.
Yes, he's slower.
Yeah, and he's been able to be successful as well. Still, for some reason, can't get a gig at the IPL very often. But I suppose it's probably because Chahal, Kuldeep, Varun, all these players, Vipraj, they don't need to bring in an overseas spinner when you've got all this talent in India to bowl those. But I just think Chahal has been someone that in the last, I don't know, he seems to go up and down in terms of his confidence. And this week has been particularly nice to watch him bowl with confidence. He was able to pick up wickets in both of the games that, he took wickets. He was picking up the key wicket at all of those points as well. I think he grabbed Rahane at a time when, that game was about to spin out of control when they were defending that low total. I think it was 60 odd for 2. He picks up Rahane. Suddenly there's a bit of a collapse and he's able to just keep going. He bowled one of those balls. I think I've said it before. Sometimes spinners, it's sort of like a dance when they really get the flight right and they bring a batter forward, it's like a dance that you're all sort of moving in the same motion, and that goes to the keeper. Keeper takes the bails off. It was just perfect. And yeah, the more he's able to beat people in flight, the more I'm going to enjoy what he's doing. So well done, Yuzvendra Chahal.
That was beautiful, Stu.
It was beautiful. Look, it was beautiful.
That was poetry, Stu.
It was almost like you'd got pre-prepared notes there, Stu.
No, you know what? The funny thing is, Binksy, the sort of the dancing thing, it actually it all stems back to the 1993-94 World Series, and actually a stumping that a Shane Warne, Ian Healy stumping. Brian Young comes down the wicket, and he is just so deceived by the flight, and Healy just casually grabs it, and Young's so far out that he can just go, well, takes the bails off. I was obviously not delighted to see Brian Young go out at that point, but it's pretty beautiful stuff.
Yes, well, I'll try and find that on YouTube. I think I remember the one that you. I think I remember the one that you're talking about. It might well be on my own personal Ian Healy highlights video that I've crafted and I watch just before bed every night. Yeah, there you go.
Loving that psychological preparation, Binksy. Thank you. Well done for that.
Yes. Guys, have we got other stuff to buy and sell? I do want to ask a question. We're pretty much at the halfway point in the tournament now, so it is time to maybe nail colours to the mast and just get very quick round table of who's gonna hold this trophy up come May the 25th at Eden Gardens.
Can I sell one thing just quickly that is sort of along the lines of what you sold before about the Super Over? I want to sell that robot dog thing. That little robot dog camera. I don't know how many grounds it's at. I've seen it. It feels like it's at a couple of grounds.
Does it make you uncomfortable?
It's just stupid. Why do we have it? It's just unnecessary.
Does it deliver the ball?
I just don't like it.
It comes out with the players.
It's got a camera on it. It's sort of like the umpire cam. They had that which I like the umpire cam for being able to get that perspective every now and again. That's quite cool. For the umpire cam, when I think Shubman Gill was complaining to the umpire basically about the slow over rate and having to bring an extra fielder in for Sai Kishaw's over in that last game. And they were just on the umpire cam, looking at him like having this. We don't need this. Nobody needs this. And we definitely don't need a robot dog, a robot dog camera in any way for cricket.
Pretty soon, it's going to be the Mumbai Cement 12th man, I'm pretty sure. It's coming up. So advertising opportunity.
I'm going to buy all your Boston Dynamics stock if you're selling it.
Yeah, please.
Robotics, I'm buying everything that you're selling. So it might not be great for cricket, but I'm buying all your Boston. Yeah, I'm buying all your Boston
there's my
Dynamics.
old man at Cloud shouting at Cloud moment.
Exactly. Now, I need to get into Rule Badger Corner if I can before we go around and say who's going to win the IPL. There was a moment this week involving Heinrich Klaasen that I was in Rule Badger Corner, and it was a wicket-keeping moment, Binksy, so you might be on this.
Have you seen this, Binksy?
I have not, no.
Okay, I think just do a quick Google, and then we'll come to you on it, because it's very interesting.
Yeah.
What am I Googling?
Heinrich Klaasen, no ball.
Yeah,
okay.
Gloves in front of the stumps.
Yeah. So Raj just spoilt my thunder. But you're absolutely right. It was an atrocious moment of officialdom and cricket lawmakers gone mad. And look,
really
anyone
pleased
who's
you brought this up.
Anyone who's played cricket with me knows that I'm an absolute rule badger, and I will pick anyone up on the cricket field if they're not following the laws of the game, particularly things like, walking on the pitch and all that kind of bollocks. But this actually ruined a spectacle because Heinrich Klaasen, so the ball was hit into the outfield. It was caught. The player was off the field. They had halfway up the tunnel, and the umpire called the player back because Heinrich Klaasen had his gloves minutely in front of the stumps when the ball was being hit. It had nothing to do with the play. Heinrich Klaasen didn't take the ball, didn't affect the stumping, didn't impact the play in any way, but his gloves were minutely in front of the stumps, as I'm sure happens.
That's the rule, right? You have to keep your gloves behind the thing. So I know it must be hurting you as a badger. But does this mean that they're going to check this every time? What's the process around around checking if the gloves are behind? Because I can bet you'll find other instances of this over in this IPL.
100%, 100%. And like, are we going to check that every ball now to see if the player,
No
like
ball.
the keeper's gloves, edge in front of the stumps? If there's no catch taken, run out, or stumping being affected, like, do we care?
I was thinking about this because I was trying to work out, like, why is this rule even here for a situation like this where he doesn't, I can understand if you take the ball in front of the stumps and then you go on and make a stumping because, you maybe are gaining advantage by grabbing it and pulling it, going and grabbing it early. But what is it there for? Is it so that the keeper can't, like, be really annoying and, like, get his gloves in front of the bat or, like, try and wind up? Because then obviously I feel like that comes under something different. But I mean, then it's all subjective. Where do you draw the line of, how close is too close and all this stuff?
If the keeper grabs the batter's bat in front of the stumps, that's not allowed. But
yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I've seen you do that though.
What, grab someone's bat? I don't think you have.
No, I haven't. My point is that it had no impact on the play. Why are we even monitoring for that particular rule? So even as a rule badger, I was perplexed and dumbfounded.
So
by,
Baldy,
by
can
that
I ask you a question on that? Did you know that was the like I was aware obviously of the rule around having your gloves in front of the stumps. And look, I'm looking at it now, and sort of the law is wicketkeeper shall remain wholly behind the wicket at the striker's end from the moment the ball comes into play. If the rule is broken, the umpire shall call and signal no ball. So it's pretty clear that is the rule. I've got to admit, I didn't know that was the rule. I thought it was actually catching the ball in front of the stumps. So that has to be the trigger for that to take place. But yeah, I mean, as Raj says, what are we going to do? Are we going to have the Mumbai cement wicketkeeper no ball cam? Yeah, fair play to the third umpire though. That's good knowledge of the protocols.
Is it fair play?
It's incredible badgering of the rules. I'll give him that. There's a whole family of badgers being in operation in that particular delivery.
It's fun in that bunker, isn't it? I'll tell you what, they have a bundle of laughs. So let's ping him on that one. Yeah.
So yeah. Who's going to win the IPL? Is that the next topic on the agenda? We round out with that.
Is that what you're doing? Were you sending us, Binksy?
Well, we don't have to. We can wrap the podcast up now and not give any insight to the listeners. But or we can now like colours to the mast.
Do you think that's what we have done? Do you think that's what we've done in this IPL coverage? Insight?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you after, Binksy? Are you after who's going to win it? Who we think's going to make the dominator or the eliminator? Well, what are we after here?
Oh, I've got to be really specific, right? I just want no more than 3 words. No more than 3 words. Who wins the IPL?
I'm trying to think. Do some of these teams have 4 words? No, they don't. I think they're all 3 words, aren't they? There's so many supers.
I did check that before I gave that clarification. So
my
Baldy,
son
for
actually
example,
said to me,
go on.
we were watching some highlights, and he said to me, "Why do both teams have super in them names?" I was like, "Oh, it's just the weird way that teams naming. The teams are named." Okay,
I'll jump in first, and I'm gonna choose one, but I'm actually gonna caveat it with a roughie as well. So I think that the Gujarat Titans are going to win the IPL
look at Jamie's
2025. But I'm going to caveat that with if Mumbai Indians can get anywhere near any of these playoff games, I think they're a very good chance to get all the way to the final and win it.
I'm gonna look. All my other picks have just been a complete mess this IPL. The Sunrisers, we know how they're going at the moment. I'm going to have to stick with the only side that I sort of got mocked for putting them in the top 4, and now they are looking pretty good, and that's the Punjab Kings. I've been so impressed with them, the way they've been going about. We've talked about their batting lineup. We've now talked about their bowlers and the different sort of, Chahal and the different, they've been able to defend low totals. They've been able to go and put big scores on at different times. Yeah, they're another side that they fit together. I feel like they fit together well. They've got a lot of different parts like GT. They feel like they've got a lot of different ways that they can win. So yeah, Punjab's the one that I'm looking at in this tournament and going, yeah, It wouldn't surprise me anymore if they go on and win this tournament now.
Will Well, I'd better stick with the Australians, shall I? So I'll stick with the Australians. I'll go with
They're not
the
in
Delhi
this
Capitals.
tournament.
They don't have a team.
Can I have teams with Australians in them?
Yeah, any Australian player.
Any
wins
Australian
the
player
tournament.
wins the tournament. I actually want to highlight LSG. I'm expanding my mind this week, and I'm going to go with LSG. They're under the radar. They've won 5 games. No one's really talking about them.
Punt back.
Punt. Well,
He's
Punt
got one
is
score, isn't he?
he's back, but is he? He's on my watch list. Is he going to come to the fore? Markram's doing well. Marsh is in there. There's a little bit to like going on with LSG at the moment. So if I get a roughie, they're my roughie.
I called Markram as a golden arm earlier in this tournament.
You did?
I think he's all right with the ball.
Got Rutchin, didn't he? It was unfortunate. What about you,
I'm
English
going-
boys?
I'm going brevity, and me and Raj have certainly been sharing notes. So GT for me, but my outsider is Mumbai Indians. I think with their up and coming fixture list and their squad, if they can string a few results together, I think they would be my outsider.
Right, yeah, this isn't providing a lot of insight, this podcast. I'm going to say exactly the same thing. GT with Mumbai as my... but yeah, in the interest of some content, it's got to be KK. It's got to be KKR, hasn't it?
It's gotta be
J. Ross will
KKR.
come to the fore. They're going to win the tournament. Yeah, end of story.
Nice.
Very good.
Right, boys, another really tight podcast from
Yeah, really well scripted. We knew we were going at all those different points. Yeah,
Wow.
perfect.
Yeah, mate, you had your 4 pages on wrist spin. That's the main. That's the main thing. That's the main thing. Boys, we will be back next week. Taking us well over the halfway stage in the tournament by the time we get to the end of April. And of course, we're that little bit closer as well to the return of international cricket as well. That will be coming up in your feeds after the conclusion of this IPL. Thanks for sticking with us, and we'll see you next week on the Top Order podcast. Good night.